And welcome into the top mid-round picks of the Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, Frankie Santiago, running you through some of our favorite mid-round picks in the 2021 Fantasy Football Drafts. I said drafts weird there. Drafts?
You had a long day. It's fine. We
doing a little bit of I'm working a little bit of like Jason ambiance.
We had a couple of slip-ups last episode, but we're good.
Still getting into start of season form, right? A little bit of news before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the show today. Dak is not likely to play in the preseason games or at least not likely to play in this upcoming preseason game. He was limited in practice with a shoulder still yesterday. Fields was held out of practice with a groin. No news on that I saw today as far as whether it's considered serious or not, but he is questionable to play in this week's preseason game. And then Darren Waller finally returned to practice. He was being held out with an ankle, but he was able to log a practice yesterday, so that's good news for anyone looking at drafting Waller in the early third round, You guys have any news that I didn't mention that you wanted to bring up?
No, it was a pretty slow news day.
I did see, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but the second-year receiver out of Pittsburgh right now.
Claypool.
Claypool, there we go. I wanted to call him like Chase, something like that.
Well, Chase is his first name.
I was like, Chase is his name. I was thinking of another name. Anyways, Chase Claypool actually was suffering an ankle sprain that I saw recently that he went down with and was limited.
I believe it was ruled just a minor ankle sprain or mild ankle sprain. It's not expected to sideline him for long, from what I heard.
Yeah, I just saw it. Saw he got carted off during practice, but it seems mild. But once again, it's one of those things that ankle sprains can be either just completely mild or could be way worse.
Yeah, I guess knock on wood that it's nothing for him.
Right.
But before we launch into the show, just a reminder to everyone out there. Subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that notification bell, follow us on Twitter at the Fantasy 4-Pack, at the Fantasy 4-Pack _Ian, at the Foon, and at Senpai Koala. Twitter is the best place to reach us and get all of our individual musings on fantasy football and life. And we appreciate anyone liking, sharing, subscribing on the YouTube channel. The interaction with that helps us grow as a channel, which in turn helps us get you guys more quality fantasy content. Which is kind of a good thing for all parties involved. That's all I got for intro stuff. You guys ready to dive in?
Let's grip it and rip it.
Okay, Vitale, take us away with your first guy. We're doing a lot of receivers today.
A lot of receivers. I mean, it's weird. It's almost like we like early round running backs and then mid round receivers.
To be fair, there's also just a lot of receivers in the mid rounds.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be starting with a receiver. I'm going to be going quarterback.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about a kid that's being drafted at the QB 10 right now. ADP is 85, so you can get him at the back of the 7th. Mr. Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. But I like this kid a lot, mainly because of his draft price. And every year we see some late round quarterback pop. And this is a great guy to kind of roll the dice with your team, and it could be mainly because you have 6 rounds ahead. You can go 3 running back, 3 wide receiver. That sets your team up very safe, and then you can start shopping quarterback. Where 7th round, the guys you could be putting on your bench are a little bit lesser. The tight ends are dried up. You can get a guy who, over the last few games, was really getting heavy usage. The only knock against him was his accuracy, which you'd like to see now that he has a full off season, some preseason to work towards, that he can get that under control. I mean, this guy was throwing, if you extrapolate his 4-game sample over a full season, he's throwing the 12th most in the league, and his rushing yardage, like the amount of attempts he took, if he ran that many times, about 11 attempts a game, you extrapolate that over a full season, that's 188 attempts, which would put him at first, above Lamar, who was about 155, I believe, last year. So, clearly they want to use this kid. There's serviceable but not great talent on the Eagles as far as receivers go. So they're going to need him to just kind of be the everything like they are with Lamar. He's a discount Lamar that could pop for more, or if he has a bad start and he's not doing great, you cut him, you invest at a 7th, which is not the best, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like you're losing out on a 4th, 5th round quarterback like a Dak, like a Jason Allen or
Jason Allen,
yeah.
Josh Allen, Kyler
Jason,
Murray.
Yeah, a lot of those upper round quarterbacks.
You're reducing the draft capital that you're investing.
So, and then on top of that, you could say, oh, well, why not just go Aaron Rodgers? Why not go Tom Brady? Well, Tom Brady threw for almost 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns last season. It was still just the QB8. You need rushing upside. There's too many good rushing quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can throw for a lot and supplement that with rushing. So this kid has a chance to do something like a Lamar Jackson light, and for where he's going, I think he could be a huge value to teams.
Sure. I think he's one of the only guys in the NFL that has probably 800 yard rushing upside. It's a small camp. It's like him, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray.
Right.
The real question, Jalen Hurts, can he get it done with his arm at all? Because I don't see him getting in the. I think he could easily hit 1,000. Maybe not easily. But I think he could hit 1,000 yards just like Lamar Jackson. But I don't know if he's going to get in the end zone as much as Lamar Jackson. So I think he's going to need to supplement his game a little bit more with his arm. Mm-hmm. So it does, bear to be seen if he can do that.
Yeah, we really want to see Devonta Smith come back.
It's like, I mean, comparing him to Lamar Jackson is actually, as a discount Lamar Jackson, is a pretty good comp. And we might see, like you said, we're not going to say he can't hit 1,000 yards. I probably put him about that 800 to 900 range. But if we see him not supplemented with his arm, I mean, he might not get in the end zone as much, but we might see, a similar season to what Lamar had last year. And Lamar was the QB10.
Right, but we've talked. There's too much of an industry focus on end of season rankings. Like, as someone who, had Lamar in some leagues and watched other people have him in other leagues, you weren't happy with Lamar for the vast majority of the season. I think that's the upside, as you said. That's the upside of Jalen Hurts is you're not investing a high pick in him, so you're not getting burned if he doesn't work out. But that is the downside with Jalen Hurts is if he doesn't carry you in weeks with his legs, then he needs to have an aspect of his game that is a throwing component, or he's not going to be. Never mind, he's not a good NFL quarterback. He's not going to be a good fantasy quarterback.
Right, and that's why I do like the fact that when he was out there and for the 4 games he was using, it wasn't just like Lamar where he was just purely running. He was running and he was throwing. The issue with his game was purely his accuracy, which you can look at his receiving talent and or lack thereof, and you can look at the fact that he didn't have a preseason. So like I said, for me, I think he has both tools there, and I think the team, as long as this is also, barring a trade for Desean Watson, which I wouldn't fault them one bit. Like, even though I like Jalen Hurts, and there's been a lot of good reports coming out that he's testing his receivers to make sure they know their book, and he's working hard. He's got the work ethic, but still, Desean Watson's Desean Watson.
Yeah, I mean, if you can move a, we'll say project QB, shown a little bit of flash in the NFL, but still, has steps to be made. Or you can just go out and get a top 5 guy. You're going to go out and get the top 5 guy.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't disagree there. No, I like it. He is a guy that I've considered in the later ends of the mid rounds.
Yeah, and I think he's cooled off his ADP a little bit because of he came in a little hypey in the late 5th, 6th round. And I think that was a little bit too much. Now he's in the 7th. I think he's a great price.
Sure, Frankie. What about your first guy?
Well, I mean, we talked about the comps to Lamar, and that's actually the guy that I like a lot this year comparative to last year. If you look at, I mean, we talked about it. We were all disappointed in Lamar, and the main reason I was just because of his price. I mean, you were paying, mid-second, early third last year, and while I wouldn't have faulted you then, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. Look at the end of the year, didn't really live up to that upside that we were looking for drafting him that high. Over the offseason, Ravens went out and picked up, Watkins. They drafted Bateman. They overall, oomphed up the offense a little bit.
Sure, yeah. I mean, everyone they brought in is better than what they had last year for the most part.
With that being said, I'm not saying that they're going to become a pass-first team. I think that we pretty much – I'm not saying he can't pass it, but I think we pretty much saw what Lamar's ceiling is going to be just based on the style of quarterback that he is. That 3,100 yards and, his 1,200 on the ground. I don't think he's going to pass that again as far as that rushing volume. I mean, we could see him bring his passing yards up. I mean, passing yards and touchdowns from last year. I don't think we're going to say a huge jump, but, it's not unsafe to say that's probably going to have positive regression.
Sure.
And that's not even why I really, like him a lot this year, to be frank, pun intended. But
You are frank.
like I said, last year the main issue for me anyways was his price. You were paying too high and you got too little in the return. Now you're taking him a round or two later. I've seen in some drafts, and the biggest thing that separates him is his rushing upside, similar to Jalen Hurts. Like there again, Jalen Hurts is going to be a discount Lamar. Lamar is going to be a Lamar. He's averaged 10.6 on the ground per game, and he missed a game in 2019 and 2020. The rushing floor for like that alone is insane. You don't get that with a lot of running backs.
Yeah.
Let's dive a little bit deeper too. Since 2016 or 2019 rather, he's finished with 16 and a half or fewer in 4 games out of his 30. He's 21.3 out of his 22 out of 30 as far as fantasy points per game. And overall, just for his career, 76.7% of his games have been QB1 numbers. You know who the only other quarterback did that in his career is?
Tell me.
Pat Mahomes.
I was going to guess that.
That's it. If you're just, looking for a guy who has that super high upside as far as like, those MVP numbers, with the rushing floor he provides and, the imminent positive regression in his passing game, I think that he's going to outperform how he did last year, and you're going to get him at not super discounted as Jalen Hurts you might get with him, but, I think that you're going to be happier this year.
Fair. I think my one question, because some fans might not be out there and saying, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, granted you got to pay a little more for Josh, but they're not going too far apart. They both have a rushing floor, whereas Lamar has the yardage. Josh Allen just finds the end zone. So you can almost pencil him in for 7-8 touchdowns. And he has the arm to support it with a great receiver that can, complement his deep ball passing style. What would be your argument to somebody going into their draft to shy away from Josh Allen and take Lamar Jackson?
So my answer to that would be, I mean, at least from what I've seen, Lamar Jackson's rushing upside's higher, and you're going to get that, well, I'm not going to say you're going to get 1,000 yards, but just pencil him for the same as Jalen Hurts.
You wouldn't be surprised,
800 to 900. Now, while he doesn't have, the 40 touchdown upside, I would say he can get to mid-30s. And do you want to play it safe and actually, safe's not even probably the right word. Do you want to rely on the deep ball Stephon Diggs touchdowns, or do you want to, roll the dice on the rushing upside? It's not who I'm going to take. It's what do you feel more comfortable with if I'm a drafter? And for me personally, it's the rushing upside with Lamar.
Fair.
Because, rushing touchdowns are more points.
Yeah. Because I can just see that's going to be a big question for people on draft days. Do I go a little bit earlier and take Josh, or do I wait a little bit and take Lamar if you're looking for one of those elite rushing quarterbacks?
I mean, in my opinion, because I've been finding myself doing this very often in mock drafts, I don't personally believe that the upside you're getting with those early quarterbacks is going to be worth the opportunity cost of not drafting the receivers in that range. So I would just say draft none of them and wait until you can get Aaron Rodgers in the 8th, or Jalen Hurts in the 8th, or Tom Brady in the 10th, or Ryan Tannehill in the 11th, or Matt Stafford in the 12th. But I can see the argument for it if you truly believe that Lamar's going to, because Lamar has to return to MVP form if he wants to pay off a 4th or 5th round ADP.
Yeah, and I do think where his ADP sits now for a lot of home leagues is, unless you have a Ravens or Lamar homer in your league, I could see him slipping because people don't, there's a lot of people that didn't believe in him, and then he didn't really return value last year, so I could see a lot of people saying, like, well, I'm not going to pay it, and I could see him slipping into the late 4th, maybe even the 5th, if people are really off on him.
I could buy that, yeah.
Going over him, be like, oh, no, I'd rather take Josh, I'd rather take Kyler, I'd rather take Dak. and these other quarterbacks going ahead of him, and he slips a little bit. So I think he could be a sneaky value at draft day.
Sure. All right. I think I will jump into my first guy here as well. I'll keep it in the AFC. Actually, I have to keep it in the AFC North. Both my guys are AFC North guys. I'll jump over to, I think it's going to be the worst team in the AFC North this season. T. Higgins is currently just a steal at his ADP. I mean, I think it all stems from the fact that they brought in Jamar Chase. Everyone's unsure about Burrow's knee, but people are just ignoring the fact that T. Higgins quietly had a very good season last year. He had a strong rookie showing. He looked like he was developing rapport with Burrow. Obviously, the knee injury kind of sidelined that rapport, but he still had a good year, even with Burrow on the sidelines. The offense hasn't changed that much since then. I mean, they got rid of A.J. Green. They brought in Joe Burrow. A.J. Green's off in Arizona now, living it up in the sunshine. But all of those vacated, 100 targets, a little, or maybe a little over. There was like 104, 105 targets that A.J. Green vacated on his way out the door. Those are all still going to be there for Jamar Chase to pick up, or for, to get added into the pool that get split between the three of them. I mean, Joe Burrow was on pace for 640 some odd passing attempts last season, and the defense didn't get better. I think this is one. I mean, I talked about this when I talked about Burrow as one of my boom players this season, one of my breakout players. I see this Bengals offense providing a lot of fantasy value this season, because we're looking at an offense that is exactly what you look for to return fantasy value. A lot of guys going at depressed values, lots of throwing, talented receivers, a really bad defense, a fairly competent offensive mind as their head coach, and they upgraded the offensive line over the past season. I talked about that in the Burrow video as well. They upgraded the offensive line in the past year so that the quarterback, Joe Burrow, is going to have more time to throw. Him having more time to throw is going to benefit a big body guy like Higgins moving down the field, because that means he's going to be able to get him those deep A-dot targets and, try and get him on deeper routes that are, what you see be, these breakout score, the ESPN highlight plays where they'll catch a ball over the top and just take it for 75 yards. Like, that's only good for the offense. And I'm not worried about Jamar Chase coming in and eating into his target volume at all, because like I said, this isn't the Ravens that only throw 450 times a season. Like, they have so much volume that they can both be productive wide receivers. Yeah. I don't see any reason why T. Higgins going in the 5th round, sometimes 6th, can't end up as a top 15 wide receiver, or if the stars really align, maybe a top 12 wide receiver. Like, he presents just extreme value right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you look at last season, going into the season, I like the Giants a lot for basically all the same reasons that you said for the Bengals. They were supposed to be a terrible defense, but hindsight's 2020.
He's going as the wide receiver 28 right now.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, I find myself a lot in drafts, either picking T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. Pretty much it's whatever one doesn't go off the board first.
I think
I just really get, for pretty much again all the same reasons you said.
Yeah.
I really like this offense for fantasy because the defense didn't get better. They throw the ball a lot. They're kind of like the Falcons, where when they had
no, they're very much like the Falcons, or like the Dallas Cowboys to start last year, where they were just printing fantasy points because Dak was throwing in an obscene amount, and you saw multiple receivers in that offense have great days.
Yeah, again, there isn't much to not like here. Again, for me, I like to roll the dice on rookies, so I like Jamar Chase, as far as like my personal stake. But I don't have a problem drafting T. Higgins if he's not there, because I think they're gonna, both be receivers that are gonna return value.
See, I give some credence to T. Higgins having a second year in the offense, having rapport with the quarterback, already looking like a good receiver in his rookie year, And, like what we talked about in the draft tips episode, not overvaluing the rookies because last year it was a historic year. It's not likely it gets repeated. And they're going basically right next to each other, but I had to look up where Jamar Chase was right now, 5 picks ahead of T. Higgins. So it's like they're going right next to each other. So you might as well take T. Higgins, who is going at a discount, to Jamar Chase right now.
Yeah, because we're seeing more and more the second year. Like the third-year breakout of old is now the second-year breakout.
Sure.
So a lot of these guys in that, I'm actually targeting a lot of second-round receivers, and that's why I'm loving these
Second-year receivers?
Yep. Second round, second year, whatever. Second year receivers that are in the middle rounds for drafts. I feel like they provided a lot of value, and especially in this offense. And another guy who left was a pass catching specialist, was Gio Bernard. I mean, he wasn't being used as much, but they said he was still one of their pass catching options they could rely on. So now
that's some targets that are. They're probably not all going to go to Mixon because Mixon's not as good of a pass catcher as Gio was.
Yeah, they're just going into the pool for whoever's available. So when I try and idealize how this offense is going to go, T. Higgins should take over the one with Tyler Boyd providing some solid value over the middle.
Honestly, he's being super slept on.
Yeah, we've seen
everyone's pretending Tyler Boyd's dead or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's because
he's always been so consistent.
He's the lesser known Jarvis Landry.
Tyler Boyd's the wide receiver 37 right now.
Yeah, there's no way he's that bad. He is. He should be the number 2 on this offense while Jamar Chase is getting his feet under him. But Joe Burrow needs someone to bail him out when the line gets blown through. It is better, but it's still not one of the better lines in the league. So
it's just better than last year.
Right. So when they verse one of these better defenses with a good D line, he's going to need someone to check down to. So Tyler Boyd's right there. And like you said, I still think T. Higgins is still going to be his primary target. I just think Tyler Boyd's going to be able to eat in this offense too. So yeah, I'm all in on those two. Jamar Chase, I think his price is a little bit too high for me. So
sure,
I'm usually going for the other guys.
Yeah, if you're going to take one, you want to wait for the discounted T. Higgins or the even more discounted Tyler Boyd.
I'll climb over. I guess I'll just take T. Higgins. If they're both on the board and I know I'm not getting – if T. Higgins is not getting back to me, I'll just go for T. Higgins.
That's fair. All right, Vitaly, talk to us about your second guy.
All right, now to get into a receiver. Moving over a little bit to the east with the Panthers. I'm in on DJ
That's
Moore.
more south. Cincinnati
it is still
to
technically east.
We're going to call it southeast and call it a day.
I believe Cincinnati to Charlotte is actually a direct line south, but
I don't think so. But anyways, so moving to the Carolinas to make you happy.
Yeah.
Moving to
Charlotte's
Carolina.
a great city.
Yeah. So DJ Moore, another guy that gets regularly slept on. He is going as the wide receiver 21 right now. ADP of 57, but the ranking from the experts is 40. So clearly they're recognizing that he should be going a whole round earlier. But right now, if you're an early running back truther, he is your go-to guy. Because you can take 3 running backs and have him sitting there right there to anchor your team with a guy who's now had back-to-back over 1,175 yards in 2 seasons. You can just pencil him in for 1,100 yards at this point. Darnold's his quarterback. We saw that Teddy came in. It was the first year, even with him being.
Where did you say he was going?
His ADP is 57.
Oh, I thought you said he was the wide receiver 57. I was like, what?
No. Wide receiver.
Sorry, I heard wide receiver 57. Right? My brain had a record scratch. Hold on.
Wide receiver 21. ADP 57. That puts him in the 5th round. So. Back to what I was saying, though. Curtis Samuel's gone. He's got another year with Matt Rule, and he now doesn't have to, kind of play off the back foot here where Robbie Anderson came in knowing this playbook already, so he kind of had to jump ahead of him. I think their targets might balance out a bit, and I just think DJ Moore is a more talented receiver, so he should win out in this and be able to move back into that slot role that Curtis Samuel was kind of taking away from him and be able to flourish. So looking back at him, he finished last year as the wide receiver 22. If you give him 1 touchdown, he jumps up to the wide receiver 19. If you give him 2 touchdowns, he jumps up to the wide receiver. He's battling in the wide receiver 15 area.
Sure.
And that's giving him no yardage with those touchdowns.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, if I told you he got 6 touchdowns, you're like, yeah, whatever. That's kind of whatever for a wide receiver. He had 4 last year. So if you just give him blah number for a wide receiver 2 for 6 touchdowns, he's already battling for a fringe wide receiver 1. If he gets 8 touchdowns, he's in the wide receiver 1 conversation. So right now people are sleeping on him as a low end 2, like mid 2 at best. And that's not including, like, if we don't get the Gase bump for Darnold. Like, I think Darnold is not going to get this much of a bump like we saw with Tannehill and basically everyone else. I think he'll at least be a serviceable quarterback. And we've seen what happens when he has a serviceable quarterback.
I was going to say, Tannehill had the benefit of having Derrick Henry, but Darnold has the benefit of having Christian McCaffrey, who is also going to contribute. So you know what? I like DJ Moore. That's all I'm going to say. I think that he's a very good receiver. I think that he is the receiver I am probably going to draft if I'm going to draft him. Right. Anybody on that team.
And it's like, I like other wide receivers better than him, but I have to pay more for them. When I could go out of the 3 rounds and just go, Chubb, Eckler, David Montgomery, or Chubb, Eckler, CEH, or something like that. I get 3 stud running backs, and in the 4th round, I can go with DJ Moore if I want to take him a little early, or I can wait until the 5th and get him there. Like, he is in such a great position right now for you to grab what is considered a mid 2 that has low end 1 upside. So I just don't see a way where he hurts you at all. He's just gonna, at worst, he's just gonna do what he did last year: 1,100 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and that's just gonna turn in a mid 2 season for you.
I'm trying to find a tweet that I was looking at earlier today. It was fairly damning for Darnold. But
they deleted it because they knew it wasn't true.
No, I can't. I mean, I'm trying to scroll to find it right now, but I can't find it on my timeline. I'm gonna paraphrase it without being able to actually find the tweet itself.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam Darnold has never supported a top 15 wide receiver other than I believe it was Robbie Anderson in 2019.
Yes. So I understand that. And there's also the hidden upside is that the Panthers are in on trading for Desean Watson. So,
well, sure, but I'm not going to plan around.
Right, I'm not planning for it. I'm just saying that there's hidden upside with the Panthers where they could end up inheriting Desean Watson, who sounds like his cases are going to be heard next year. So if he does play, he's going to probably play. There's also
been announced that there's some like counter legal action going out because the records have, I guess, been uncovered that show that some of it might be considered legal extortion. So it's probably going to get messy for Desean Watson.
Yeah, like I said, this sounds like a situation that will be on hold for the season. He'll play, and then next season the decision might come down. So
I don't know. I just don't love it because. So to me, when I look at this at this Carolina situation, I think there's still too many mouths to feed. Christian McCaffrey's still there.
Yep.
They still have Robbie Anderson. They drafted Terrace Marshall. DJ Moore's like that's 4 people who all need to eat in that offense. Sam Darnold's never hit 20 touchdowns ever. Like, yes, he had Gase for some of his career, but like not all of it. He still hasn't looked like a good NFL quarterback for a lot of his career. I want to like Sam Darnold. I hope that this is a career resurgence for him. But I am not comfortable enough with what Sam Darnold brings to the table, in my opinion, to be able to count on DJ Moore where he's going. I honestly, if he was going probably like 8 picks later, eight wide receivers later, I'd be interested. But like the guys that he's going around right now, I mean, he's going directly behind Deontay Johnson. Directly ahead of Kenny Golladay, directly ahead of Odell Beckham Jr., or a couple wide receiver picks ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. He's going ahead of Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins. I think where I start to become interested in him is if I was looking at either him or Chase Claypool, because Claypool is another guy that I don't super. Same with Juju Smith-Schuster going right after Claypool. Debo after that, like. That's the range I start looking at him where it's like, okay, these are guys with fairly sizable question marks now, because to me, his question mark isn't just what size of the pie is he going to get. It's how big of a pie is Darnold actually bringing to the table here? Because I don't know that Darnold is even the same as Bridgewater. He might be worse.
Fair. That is a reality that you have to plan for. But I also think we've seen DJ Moore produce even under Cam Newton's waning years when he, they said,
well, sure, but there was less receivers there at that time.
Right, but I also, like I said, you're talking about a rookie receiver, and then like that, you're also got to like a rookie receiver came in, and then Curtis Samuel left, so I think that kind of at least balances it out with CMC coming back. I'm just saying is we've seen him play with CMC and Curtis Samuel all going at full cylinder, and he was able to carve out 1,100 yards. So
Sure.
He just seems like a guy who's just very efficient with the ball. So I think if Darnold's going to go to somebody, I think he's going to be able to feed the guy who goes over the middle a little bit more, as we saw him pepper targets to the slot receiver with the Jets.
If I had to peg him for a most likely scenario, I think it's that he probably puts up okay yards again, but his touchdowns stay about the same, and he finishes about the same. I hate it for DJ Moore because I think he's a very talented receiver, but ultimately I think this might just end up being another mildly disappointing fantasy year for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it if you want to plant your flag on DJ Moore and say that I think that this can be the season he breaks out, but to me he just represents too much risk where he's going.
Sure, like I said, it basically does come down to how do you feel about Darnold. I'm very cool on Darnold, where it's like I just think he's going to be what he was. He's just going to be basically Teddy from last year and be blah.
Frankie, what about your second guy?
Well, we're gonna stay in the receiver camp, and I feel really bad for the fact that Jerry Jeudy had to endure Drew Lock for his rookie year. While guys like CeeDee Lamb had Dak Prescott, and as much of a fan of it as I'm not of Kirk, Jefferson had Kirk.
I mean,
he just kind of drew the.
At least Kirk Cousins is just like Mr. Average.
Like, he really just drew the short straw there. There were so many uncatchable balls.
Yeah, I believe he led the league in uncatchable targets, if I recall.
He posted a 46% catch rate.
Yeah.
And that wasn't his fault.
I mean, it was partially his fault. It was mostly not his fault.
Let me rephrase. I think that it's... I don't think that Drew Lock can support, he barely supported one wide receiver. Never mind.
Oh, Drew Lock can't support any wide receivers. There's a reason he's barely in football right now.
It's, and we'll attribute Judy's, rookie year to, Sutton being out if you want, but I think that he's a very talented receiver. And just looking at, that we talked about Bridgewater being, serviceable. I really hope he gets that job in Denver, because just based on what I saw last year, with that 46% catch rate, Jerry Jeudy still turned in a pretty good season. I mean, not wide receiver one numbers, but if you have a guy who's going to get a huge bump in accuracy and just overall quarterback play if Bridgewater gets that spot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know what Sutton's going to be coming off injury, and I mean, I don't think that KJ Hamler's it. I mean, we haven't seen a super lot of him, but
I think he's fine. Reports coming out of Broncos camp too haven't been promising for Cortland. Like, the reports coming out of Broncos preseason and all that have made it sound like Cortland Sutton is very much a man coming off an injury. He's probably going to have at the very best a slow start to the season.
Yeah, we're not getting all pro Sutton back, and
I mean at least not until like late October, I'd say.
Yeah.
If I had to stab a date at it.
And I mean, then if you're, comparing, Hamler to Jeudy, I mean, Jeudy just based on body of work and also just looking at their physical build is just the better wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's, it makes sense to me anyways that, based on those two things, he's going to end up being the number one on this team as far as wide receivers go. I mean, maybe he'll be battling Fant, but I think Fant's going to have a step back this year because, Sutton is back. Those targets are probably going to go to Sutton. And
I don't know if Fant can really have a step back from what he did last year. He wasn't very good last year. Fant's going to have a step back and not be on the field this year. He's going to step back into the stands.
But I think, again, the biggest thing for me with Jeudy, I mean, I like his price as far as, where you can get him. I mean, kind of similar to DJ Moore, you're getting him a little bit later. But it's the upside that he presents just looking at, I mean, I don't like to look at raw numbers and, stat people out for on pace for. But I think that his numbers, at the very least have to stay the same if you just bump that completion percentage up. And also, he's a guy who can turn, pretty much any ball into a touchdown just because of his speed and the way that he, runs routes and, plays the field. But is it going to be Drew Lock or is it going to be Bridgewater? That's the biggest thing for me. It's looking like it's going to be Bridgewater just because, Drew Lock just isn't it.
Yeah, they're playing the game over there about who it's going to be. I'm not a huge fan of that one because it feels like it just should be. I think they're just trying to hold on to some kind of value for Drew. Maybe they can swap him out for something late. Or
It's standard NFL smokescreen stuff. Nobody wants to tell anybody anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping it is because, I love KJ Hamler. I think he's a great little player because you see his footwork is just amazing. It's just I think he doesn't have the rest of the game there, whereas Jerry Jeudy has the footwork, the route running, everything else about him, the size, the
speed.
He's got it all there. He's going for a second-year breakout. Like I was telling you guys, I love second-year receivers this year, and Jerry Jeudy he needs to be at depressed price because he's still on the Broncos and the whole quarterback situation. Like, at best, it's still Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy's he's just bleh, kind of whatever.
Sure.
So I like him where he's at, and I hope his price doesn't really creep up too much in the next few weeks.
I don't think it's going to because so typically when you see the price for players creep up towards the meat and potatoes of draft time, as the end of August, beginning of September, that range, that's when all the casuals begin flooding back into the game. And, casuals will snap at known names or guys who popped last year. And Jerry Jeudy didn't really do either of those.
I'd say it's either
So he's
injuries like, someone's missing time because they pulled something in camp.
Sure, I mean, I guess if Jerry Jeudy has some nuts highlight catch in game 2 or 3 and ends up on ESPN, that's gonna push his draft value. But
yeah,
I agree with you guys. I'm in on Jerry Jeudy. If for the only reason that I am is that I think he's going to improve in his second year. He was drafted to be a stud NFL wide receiver, and Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater threw about the same amount last year. So let's project no increase in passing for that team. That's still almost 1,000 more yards. And if you want a blueprint for what this offense could look like, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore were both 1,000-yard receivers last season. There's plenty of work to go around. Like Teddy Bridgewater, he had those devastating knee injuries a few years back, but we all forget before that we were looking at him like, is he going to be the next great Vikings quarterback?
Yeah.
He was looking like he was going to turn into something, at least above average for the Vikings, and then he just got injured and injured again, and he had a career resurgence now down in Carolina. Like, this could be a building year for him as well. If the Vikings decide that they have something with Bridgewater they can work with, they could go and
Broncos.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Broncos. I was thinking Vikings.
Vikings we want him back.
Yeah, I mean, we'll give you Kirk Cousins. We don't want him anymore. No, if the Broncos decide that they can build with him, because I do believe that this is all just a smokescreen. He's gonna be the day one quarterback. He could get in there. He could become I would say at least an average NFL quarterback, maybe above average if his body's working correctly again. NFL quarterback and really support these receivers there. I'm all in on, especially at the price he's going at. I'm all in on Jerry Jeudy.
My two big factors that I really like him for: 1, second-year breakout, and 2 is that Courtland Sutton. I mean, granted, I never want to see someone coming back slow from injury, but this is more of the yips, whereas it's just a mental thing for him. It seems like he's not trusting that leg.
Plus, wide receiver 36.
Yeah, I know. He's literally
It's so late.
He's literally a fringe wide receiver 3/4.
Like, that draft position is like, I don't know, he might be a flex guy, I guess. He's going with flex players.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's such an attractive price. I love it.
It's like I said, it's why we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. Early running back strategy, go for it, because you can get so many good receivers in the mid to late rounds. You can just be like, oh, I can go 3, maybe even 4, but I wouldn't recommend it. 3 running backs, and then just build your bench full of these guys with amazing pop. That you can be like, nope, it's not him, and then you're just sitting there throwing these guys with amazing.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Nope, not Claypool. Nope, not Jeudy. And just like you have all these guys, so your friends are like, I think I'll take Melvin Gordon in his one knee.
All right, I'm gonna round this show out for us and bring it back to the AFC North here. Talk about a guy that I'm personally offended that the fantasy community is just sleeping on. I would say to a certain extent, dragging through the mud because the man dropped a couple footballs. Like, whoop-de-doo, Basil. Deontay Johnson is a target monster. 144 targets over 13 games last season. Like, what are we doing discounting this man? Like, he's going as the wide receiver 22 right now. What wide receiver 22 gets that kind of volume? That's saying he's like I don't know, he's like a low-end wide receiver 2. He's going to get targeted 13 times a game, but and it's all because he dropped some footballs last season. Like, do you know who else dropped some football? Like, depending on the source you go to, his drops were somewhere between 11 and 16. Everyone agrees that he was the drop leader though for the NFL last year. Do you know who's right behind him? Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf. We're not discounting any of those guys. Those guys are in order of first, third, and second first, third, and second round wide receivers this year. Like, no one's disputing the talent. Those guys are all being counted as borderline surefire things for your team. Maybe there's a little bit of doubt with CeeDee Lamb, but the hype is too high for him, for anyone to really admit he has faults. And yet, 10 picks below them, we're looking at Deontay Johnson. Like, this is a man who now has a supposedly fully healthy and slimmed down Big Ben, new offensive coordinator coming in. Take it or leave it for take it for what you want, but they redid the entire offensive line. They got a new running back in Najee Harris, who should be able to give them a more balanced approach, so that people aren't just keying into the passing game and just annihilating them out there, which honestly could help with his injuries a little bit if they're not just being like, "Yep, come on, throw it, we're waiting for you," and then just destroy whoever catches it.
Yeah.
And then Tomlin himself has even come out and said, last year is last year. Everyone starts anew as far as I'm concerned. If the head coach of the team isn't worried about the drops, why are we? I'm going to let you guys in on a little trade secret here. You drop a lot of footballs if you get targeted a lot. And he gets targeted a ton, as I've already said. He was consistently, if you go back and watch his film, he is consistently getting open against elite level defenders. That he can lose anyone in the game pretty much, and that's why he gets all of those targets. He's getting literally, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson level target volume in the 5th or 6th round. He's probably going to be one of my stamps of approval this season, because this man should be on every single person's draft. You should be climbing over each other to get this guy in the 5th round because of the upside he presents. The only thing that I think you can nitpick with him is the yardage, but let's be fair here. He's going into his 3rd year in the NFL. I think it's safe to assume he's gonna have an uptick in yardage if he keeps getting this target volume, unless the Steelers decide to exclusively use him within 5 yards.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, too, it's his first year, Big Ben was hurt.
Yep.
His second year, COVID. Now he's finally getting a full preseason, good to go with Big Ben, and getting some rapport. Big Ben's finally caring about himself a little bit, and actually going to try, because he wants to win a ring before he retires. So we could see a minor resurgence for Ben. Not that I'm trying to draft him, but there's a reason why I picked him for a bold prediction of going so high. He's got all the intangibles. The coaches have talked glowingly about him. When I was all in on Juju, he was the reason that Juju did not pop.
And we all loved Juju last year, and this guy's better than Juju.
Yeah.
I think when I was looking into this guy planning for this show, the more I looked at him, the more I was like, this guy could legitimately be, talent wise a top 10 guy in the league, and we're treating him like he's a Randall Cobb-esque slot receiver who has nothing to offer beyond 10 yards.
Yeah. It's if you and you brought up the yardage, which I don't even see as a big issue, because look at the volume. The other guys in the top 12.
Well, so it's not a big issue, especially with where he's going.
Well, then that's the thing too. Is we're talking about yardage compared to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen this year, I think, has an ECR of 24. Deontay has an ECR of 48. They finished right next to each other as far as targets go, and Keenan Allen had 70 more yards. It's that's
No, I've actually seen people describe Deontay Johnson as being, the new Keenan Allen, where he gets just peppered with targets, but he never gets that many deep balls, and it just ends up being, a lowish yardage total. But we've seen Keenan Allen have, top 3 finishes before, because there are just some seasons where because you get that many targets, you end up in the end zone a lot, and all of a sudden you've got, 1,100 yards, but 11 touchdowns or something like that, and you're just crushing it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's the upside for him. And meanwhile, at wide receiver 22, he presents one of the safest floors in football. He's probably one of 3 or 4 receivers that you can just pencil in for 10 plus points every week.
Like I'm drafting a wide receiver and not wide receiver, running back instead of Keenan Allen. I'm taking this guy 2 rounds later.
Yeah.
Like the only reason I can see people being off on him is they're down on Big Ben. They think he's basically cooked.
Sure.
And they are, or they're just Chase Claypool guys who Chase just got hurt, so we don't know what that how that ankle's gonna be responding. So he could be a little slow to start. Juju's clearly on the outs with the team, so Deontay's just the guy. Like he is the guy, and Big Ben targets the crap out of his guy. So it's just like. Everything is pointing in the same direction, but yet everyone is just being like, "Nope, he dropped the ball a lot."
I think it's just too many people trying to big brain the situation when they should just be looking at the obvious answer in front of them, which is 144 targets, hyper talented receiver going into his 3rd year in one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Yeah, there's like 2 people who get targeted a lot and don't drop balls. It's Devontae Adams, who is one of the best quarterbacks throwing to him.
I mean, I think he had. I don't know if he's still on it, but he had a run of like 147 catches with no drops.
Right. And then DeAndre Hopkins.
And Michael Thomas for a while.
For a little bit. But, like I said, those 2 guys are the 2 main ones that come to mind. And one's transcendent talent, the other's transcendent talent with a transcendent quarterback.
Yeah. No, like I said, drops exist in football, especially if you're running over the middle, because that's where you're going to be getting slammed.
And they do play some of the toughest defenses out there.
Yes. Yeah, no. I mean, if he's gonna go that late, I'll draft him 10 times out of 10. But that's my thoughts on the kid. I think that'll do it for us today for our mid-round picks. Join us next week as we bring you some of our favorite late-round picks. I think Frankie may have accidentally cheated into that late-round range with Judy, but that's fine. We'll allow it.
Maybe.
But join us next week as we bring you guys our late-round picks. And as always, as you said at the beginning of the show, like, follow, subscribe, share it with all your friends, neighbors, pet rocks, dogs. Leave it on at the barbershop, whatever. Everything helps us grow the channel. See you guys next week.